Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I had to think a second what day it was. I'm really excited today to be here with Jess Cassity, and we're going to be talking about the 20-hour a week CEO. So I'm real excited to be having this conversation because the possibilities, the thought-provoking ideas that are going to come out of this. And on top of it, I'm going to introduce her, but she does have a book out, so I'm super excited about that as well. So let's introduce her and let's get started and have our conversation. Jess Cassity is a certified business coach with a passion for helping entrepreneurs make more money, work less, which we all want, and achieve balanced work-life schedule. With years of experience in streamlining business operations and maximizing productivity, she empowers her clients to build successful online businesses while maintaining a 20-hour work week. As the author of the 20-hour a week CEO, Mastering Online Business for a Balanced Life, Jess provides tailored coaching and strategic guidance to help clients increase their profits and attract more clients without burning out. She also runs the Women Entrepreneurs Empowerment Circle on Facebook, where she connects and collaborates with female business owners to foster growth and innovation. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, Trisha, thank you so much I'm super excited to be here. Pumped.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I really, there's so much within our industry online that is always talking about you have to hustle, you have to do this, you have to do that. It is like by the time you're doing all of the things, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And a lot of times, too, women entrepreneurs tend to do all the things and then they become defeated and deflated because it's not working. So I
Yeah.
would love for you to talk about that, talk about your book and how to get to the 20-hour work week.
Yes. So, I mean, that is such a great question. It's a very powerful topic for sure, because, like you said, the world that we're in right now, we're all, kind of sold on this hustle mindset. And a lot of people are made to feel like if they're not constantly working, hustling, putting in the hours, then that means that they're not going to be successful. They're not working. They're lazy. They're not going to make the money that they want. And the reality is that you just cannot do everything. And especially you cannot do it well, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's the big problem.
And I want you to stop right there because right there, we do too many things and we're not focusing our attention on what we're doing in front of us. Instead, our brain is already 3 steps ahead going, and don't forget TikTok, and don't forget YouTube, and don't forget this place, and don't forget that place. And by the time you're done, it's like, oh, like you're just exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really it, is it's, trying to do all of the things, which makes you not do the right things. Nobody needs to be on all of the platforms, especially if they're just starting out or they don't have a team. Okay. People who are on all of these platforms, they have big companies. They have a massive amount of team that are creating their content, managing all of those platforms. The average solopreneur really only needs to find, one or two platforms, especially when it comes to social media, that their ideal client is on. It's very unlikely that they're on several platforms, right?
Yeah. Or forcing yourself to be on all. Like I
Yeah.
remember years ago, I was on so many that I was like, I just remember going, I'm done. I had a platform that had over 12,000 followers. I deleted it. I came off of that platform. I just started to shut down all the platforms because I'm like, I am not built to be on 20 platforms and then try to have a life and try to market my business and it's exhausting. And then what happens is when you see the people who have the teams who don't tell you they have the teams, now you're in comparison mode going, why can't I be like her? Or why isn't it working out for me like her? And we don't know what she has done behind the scenes. It's such an interesting, you know, self-awareness to see that comparison and that pulling it back too.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to social media platforms, imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people struggle with all the time. And it's almost an unfair situation because a lot of times you're comparing yourself to someone who is A, not in the same position as you, or B, their reality may be a little distorted, right? So you're not even seeing the truth because a lot of people, the persona of social media is, I make, $1 million a month and you can too in, less than 24 hours or, stuff like that, which, makes people feel bad. Like, oh, I'm a failure in what I'm doing. I could never, be that. And that's, part of why people get really overwhelmed with trying to be on all these social media platforms. You can't master, the algorithms and optimize yourself on all of those platforms.
Yeah, it's true. And then when we tend to beat ourselves up, it's like there's a level of why bother. So now you've got comparisonitis, imposter syndrome, and now it ends up being, well, why bother? You know, and then
Yeah.
you don't tend to get back up. And it's easy to just, formulate your feeds and things for what you desire, which is real important. When you talk about the 20-hour work week, what elements
Oh.
are the musts of the 20-hour CEO?
Yeah, and that's an amazing question because the reality is that everybody, especially a solopreneur, should be able to run any type of their business with 20 hours or less a week. And when I say that, I want to be very clear that, in my book, we talk a lot about time blocking, prioritizing, and, creating a work schedule, but it is very different for everyone. And when I say that, that's part of the problem. People try to, time block or create these schedules and they fail because they're not a one size fits all. And that really brings me to the point of, being able to do that really comes down to having the correct foundations in place for your business and focusing on making sure that they are running correctly, streamlined, optimized automations before you move on to have, be on all those social media platforms and everything. So when you take a breath and kind of roll back where you are in your business and go through those foundations, and once you put everything in place, something magical really happens. And it frees up so much more of your time, right? Because if you have all of these things on automation, you're not doing them every day. If you take one day or 1 week out of the month and schedule a month or 2 months of social media and content, emails, you're not doing that every day, right?
Yeah. And that's important to even recognize is, take a day where your energy is high and you're in creation mode and build up your content so that you can schedule it out for a longer period of time. And
Yeah.
then you're not worried about the day that you woke up with an hour sleep, 2 hours sleep, and you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna? Because I've been there. I've definitely done it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna post. I can't even think straight. So there has to be days that you are all ready to go with these things. When you talk about foundations, though, what is one particular foundation that you think all entrepreneurs should have in place?
Yeah, and that really starts with offer. Inside the offer is like your messaging, it's who you help, what you do. And it really comes down to creating, that vision statement and packaging, what you're going to sell, what your service is, what your offer is. And all of that ties into that foundation of an offer because you can't have a business without knowing who you are, who you serve, and what you're actually going to do, right?
Mm-hmm. That's really important. And I think a lot of people miss that. They go straight to social media and then and again, when I say this, I come from a place of been there, done that.
Yeah.
I throw spaghetti on the walls.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's not sticking. It's not sticking. It's not sticking. It's the message isn't clear.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And everybody right now, depending, especially if they have an online business, because they're being pulled in all these directions, the noise is real online. Everybody is really into, starting a podcast right now, but not everybody should have a podcast. And not a lot of people have the personality to bring people in, or the voice, or, the material, or the concept. There's just no one place that everyone should be, because their ideal client isn't in there all the time.
Mhm. And that's interesting because you're right. I've been hearing a lot about people going, I have to podcast, I have to podcast, I have to podcast. And I kind of have a podcast, but in a very different format. Like for me, video and having, organic conversations is really good for me. It lights me up. I enjoy it. I enjoy speaking to people such as yourselves and sharing their message and sharing how they can help people, because I think it's important,
Yeah,
but do I have a traditional podcast? No, no.
I love that.
See, so it's, I think, and I would love for you to tell how people can do this, is about really delving into what lights people up. So for me, like, I know a traditional podcast is not my thing. I just do. But what advice or direction would you give people who are, in the growing stages of their business? Like, stop trying to force things.
Yeah, I would definitely really, get very, very clear on who your ideal client is and where they are. And a lot of people who have businesses, their ideal client is them a few years ago, a few steps back, right? A lot of people model their business over where they've came from, what they've, established. Now they're the expert in that area. So a lot of times they really do know their ideal client, but they miss the step of, listening to themselves deep inside, of finding that passion. What do they want to offer? And then, finding out where they hang out at, right? So if you hate Facebook, that's not going to be your place, okay? Because you're always going to be against it. You're always going to not want to be there. You're not going to want to go do stuff. So I highly doubt your ideal person is there, right?
And there's been a lot of people I've seen lately that keep saying, I hate Facebook. And when you dislike something, your energy speaks volumes. So the more that you are against it, you're trying to show up on that platform,
Mhm.
people get a sense of that. They feel that resistance coming off of you.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, I want to go back just a little bit about, not being on all of the platforms. I do always encourage people to go on platforms and claim their name and set up kind of like a ghost account. You can set up something with a link tree to go to your website, or, whatever. You don't actually have to sit there and like do stuff on it. Like, as an elder millennial, I despise Instagram. I can't get into it. It's just not my jam. But almost everybody I know loves Instagram. I
Mhm.
don't like it. I have an account there. I actually have several, but I log in, I check stuff, I check my DMs once in a while, every day, every couple of days, and that's it. I'm off. I'm not hanging out there any longer than I have to be. I don't optimize it. I don't spend time there.
Oh, I pretty much forward stuff to Instagram. And, people love it.
Yeah,
I'm there, I share stuff, but it's not my ideal place. See,
exactly.
one of the things I know about myself is I like to talk. So Facebook really works out well for me for that. And you just don't know who you're meeting. I mean, I do like the idea. I've done what you said, Jess. I've got my name is held on several different platforms, but I put my time and effort where I enjoy going.
Yeah. And that's what you have to do too. And a lot of things that, we talk about in the book is about, optimizing and automating and stuff. It's so easy, to post one thing if you use a social media scheduler that goes to multiple platforms. And it doesn't necessarily have to be optimized, because every platform has a specific use when it comes to social media.
Mhm.
But if you don't care about those other platforms and say Facebook is your jam, if you go in there and you create a post for Facebook and
Mhm.
schedule it to all those other ones, you're still doing something out there that people can see. And it doesn't always matter if it's optimized, you're still producing that content, but it didn't take you any extra work or effort to put into it, right?
Yeah. And I like how you keep saying optimize because I think we tend to spin our wheels as entrepreneurs instead of seriously sitting down and being like, where do I have to, what is it I have to accomplish today? I mean, what questions do you have people asking themselves so that they can schedule and optimize their day?
Yes. So that kind of ties into, your work schedule as well. So when we talk about, the 20-hour work week schedule, the first thing that we really try to do is have the conversations of like, what time of days, what days are you most productive? Because it really makes a difference. Because some people's 20-hour work weeks may be Saturday and Sunday. They may be 10 p.m. at nighttime. It depends. A lot of people have full-time jobs. So finding, when they're most productive, when they're going to work, that's how you can build your schedule around that. Because when it comes to producing content and, using your thought processes and creating and all that stuff, that takes a very specific mindset where you have to be very dedicated. So that is typically done in the time zones where you're more focused, you're more energized, you're more productive. And that is very different for everybody. And that's why a lot of people fail so much at time blocking and creating a work schedule, right? Because they're trying to stick to a plan that somebody gave them. That 9 to 5 just doesn't work for every entrepreneur, especially an online business. So getting clear on that first can really help decide what your content is, what your work schedule looks like, and what effort you're putting into that. So getting clear on that and then zoning in on their ideal client for messaging can determine which platforms and what you're going to be doing in your work week.
Yeah. And I like how you're really giving people permission to do what works for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, people leave their 9 to 5 and they expect to sit down from 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you left your job to create a business that works for you and your lifestyle that you're looking to create. So it's almost like we unlearning one thing to relearn something new. And it's important. It's important to pay attention to how you feel. And I like how you're really spotlighting that because people just they try to force and hustle, and when they do, and I've done it, again, I'm speaking, from experience of the force and the hustle, it's like by the time it's all said and done, like I was like, yeah, I don't, I'm done, and I don't even want to do another thing. It almost turns you off from the thing that you really wanted to do.
Yeah. And then whenever you're unhappy like that, that it's on automatic set you up for failure because if you're miserable, just like
Mhm.
being on a platform that you hate, you're not going to do it. And eventually you're going to burn out and be sick of it and, be fighting against yourself. And what you said earlier about, having, starting your business for the right reasons and stuff, right? Everybody starts a business, the majority of them to create the work-life balance they want, work when they want to, work less. And typically that's the complete opposite of what happens when they start a business. They end up putting so much more time into it that they're working, 80, 100 hours a week when that was, the whole point of starting their own business.
Yeah, yeah. It's such an interesting perspective when you spend so much time and then you're not getting the results that you desire. It's so condensing and optimizing. And you also said automating. So what other things do you highly suggest people to automate that are easy?
Yeah. So, the first things that we really do, once we go through, building out those basic foundations is next is like stop listening to all the noise. Just
Mm.
stop. Okay. Because it's not going to work. Everything doesn't work for everyone. And then we work on, creating those automations and stuff because once you have those in place, it might take a little work to set up, but then it's done. So some things like that are, your content scheduling, right? That we just talked about. That's one thing that you can set up there. You can schedule out a month. There's times where I have several months scheduled out, and it only took me, a couple of days. Busted through it, did all that, put it up. Another thing that is really important is emails. So your welcome sequence, that should be set up. Once that's set up, it's automated. Set it and forget it, right? You're not having to do that all the time. And then when it comes to automations, it's scheduling things out, whether it's the social media content, whether it's your podcast, say you've recorded a bunch of them, you can go and schedule them ahead of time. You can do the same thing with blog posts, your email newsletters, any of these sort of things like that is really sitting down one time and working on a very specific task, whether it's, creating 10 blog posts is going to take you so much less time to do that in one chunk of time than to do a little bit every day.
Yeah. I definitely love that there. And it's interesting you're talking about chunks of time. That is something I'm looking to focus even more on the coming weeks, is shutting everything down, but this specific time with this specific thing that I want to accomplish. Like, that is something I'm looking to create even more of, even, and I do it already, but even more time for me.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that you should be scheduling first that people don't is, go in your calendar and schedule that me time, family time first, and then everything else should be working around that.
Yeah, everything else should be working around that. And that's, I think, the big piece people forget is that interaction with yourself, with your family. And you'd be surprised at what comes of, how often I've been out having fun doing something, and next thing I know, I get a notification I was paid. And I'm like, oh, and it's because we allow ourselves that time to play.
Yeah. Well, you have to set back. You have to take care of yourself. You have to reward yourself and you have to treat yourself good. And sometimes that's, not working. Even for you workaholics out there who love working. I am one of those people. But I sometimes everybody can burn out, right? So taking that little bit of time, whether it's going for a walk, it's reading a book, listening to motivational content, taking a nap, whatever it is that brings you joy and is not focused on your regular work items, can really open up your creativity and help you go further in your business.
Yeah. And I think that's important, because we want these things, but yet we don't carve out the time to do them.
Yeah.
We're doing the things that we think, one of the things you've said more than once on this call, and I actually want to say again, is stop listening to the noise.
Yeah.
Stop listening to the noise, because what worked for one person may not work for you, and that's okay. So
Yeah. And,
listening.
just piggybacking off of that really quick too, because a lot of times people are so quick to stop what they're doing and try something new, but they don't give that one thing enough time. So a lot of times people are just out here oh, that doesn't work, moving on. I'm going to try this one. Oh, Facebook doesn't work, I'm going to go to Instagram. That didn't work, I'm going to try YouTube next week. You're not giving things enough time to actually come to fruition.
Yes. You're it's a quick jump, hop, 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 hop.
Yeah.
And speaking of, what is a good amount of time?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it really would depend what you're actually trying to do. Like if it's a new offer, I would ask further follow-up questions, are you sharing it? Like, what is your promotional strategy of that? Because a lot of times people create social media content. They just, start an Instagram account, start posting, and they're like, oh, well, I don't get any comments. Oh, well, because you think people are just magically going to find you. You create a lead magnet and you think people are just gonna, find you out in the blue in the field and sign up for it. So a lot of times it comes down to what are you actually doing after you create something or you have this new idea. But I would say 30 to 60 days for most things you should really start to see some movement if you're putting in the effort and the work after you created
Yeah. Not what is it? The law. I'm going to sit on my couch and it's all going to come to me.
it.
There has to be some action. There has to be consistent action. It can't be, I'm going to post one thing once a week and that's it, because that's not really how it works. It has to be, you know, collaboration, networking, and participating with really getting your content out there.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people recently that I've had conversations with, and previous clients that would come in and they would create a master class and they're like, well, nobody signed up for it. I'm like, okay, well, where did you share it? Oh, I shared it in my Facebook group. Okay, and who's in your Facebook group? My friends and family, and there's like 10 people in there. And I'm like, well, they're not your ideal clients, probably. So it's really, it's funny because people just, and this goes back to, my real estate career too, when people get their real estate license and they just magically thought people would just find them because now they're licensed and now, everybody's going to come to them and want to buy and sell a house. And, just people really forget follow through with whatever it is. They just spend all that time and creativity and energy in creating whatever it is, the creation process, that they slack on the follow through.
And they're not consistent.
Yeah, nobody likes the follow through. They don't like the lead generation part, typically. They like, especially creatives, most entrepreneurs are creatives. They love to create products. They love to create resources, content, and they just want people to find them. I get it.
They do.
I get it. So do I,
Yes, but it is really is about consistency. It's about posting daily. It's about talking about what you do. And I myself fell into that trap where I'd be like, well, I posted, and they're like, but, and I'm like, but what? And it's really about being consistent, doing it daily, and, fine tuning all of these pieces.
Yeah, and it also really comes down to the part of, really having, a mentor or coach or, somebody else, a business bestie. I love having, business besties and stuff. But when it comes to having a business, as entrepreneurs, we get caught inside of our head, right? We can talk ourselves we can talk ourselves out of everything. We can't see everything as a whole, but somebody on the outside can come in and ask you those follow-up questions. Okay, well, who did you share that with? Where did you promote it? What is your lead generation strategy? And ask you the questions you're not asking yourself, because most of us lie to ourselves, right? We do.
Don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, and you just don't know. You don't know all the lead gen possibilities. You don't know.
Well, even if you do, you can't coach yourself. Nobody can. Some of the top, business coaches or life coaches, they have another coach that's helping them, because you cannot hold yourself accountable like somebody else can. And that's how you need the follow-up of wherever you want to go, if it's starting or scaling. You have to have that person to help you get outside of your head, see the bird's eye view of stuff, and then hold you accountable, because that's why most people fail, whether it's, signing up for a course. How many courses have you signed up for and finished, right? Most people don't even finish them. They're not being held accountable. I'm not calling you out. Trust me,
I've definitely done it though. I've definitely bought courses and didn't do it. I'm like,
no.
Yeah.
We can blame it on our ADHD all day long, but the reality is accountability. Even as adults, we all need accountability.
And the other piece I really want to spotlight as well is we can bullshit ourselves really, really good.
Oh yeah.
But when you have that accountability to somebody else, and if it's a good coach, they're not going to accept it. They're going to be like, no, that's not a good answer. No.
That's right.
You have to keep doing it. You have to do this. You have to do that. And it's, I think a part of it is we're so comfortable.
Well, and it's different too, like you can't let yourself down in the same way you can let somebody else down.
Mm.
Right? So when you know somebody else is holding you accountable, you have to answer to somebody else. I know Trisha's going to ask me tomorrow if I finished that new lead magnet. If it was just me, I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, there's a new pair of shoes I'm going to scope out. I'll catch it next week or whatever. But if I know Trisha's going to ask me tomorrow, it's embarrassing, right? I don't want to let you down. I don't want to look like I can't do it.
Mhm.
That's what we need.
Yeah, that's really true. It really is because
We
it's
need somebody to
easier.
help us adult is what happens.
Yeah, very true.
It's hard.
Yes, yes. And I really enjoyed this conversation, and I would love for you to share a final tip and then share where everybody can reach you at. Best
Yeah,
way to,
absolutely.
connect with you.
I have had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. If I was going to say something as a big tip, I would really just say, really put yourself first, schedule the you time and schedule everything else around it. Slow down, take a breath, and figure out what you're really wanting to do with your business. And you don't have to do everything, right? Yeah.
True, true,
And then you can find me on all of the social media platforms at Jess Cassity. You can also grab the 20-Hour Week CEO book. It is available on Amazon as ebook format right now. And in about a week, it'll be out in paperback for
wow,
you to
congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, please, you can post it below. We will get back to you. I will be adding links to Jess underneath as well, so you can, hook up direct with her. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing today.
Thank you so much for having me. Can't wait till the next time.